I'm using 3 8-foot 1x8s for this project. I started by laying them out and looking for any crowns in the wood and planned to position the high points to the outside of the mantel. I then marked the outside and inside of the 3 pieces and labeled them top, bottom, and front based on grain appearance. I then set my tape measure to a little longer than my final width of the mantel, which is 79 inches, and looked for any ends of the board that I wanted to remove based on their appearance. I'm mitering all board edges at 45-degree angles so that the mantel looks like a solid chunk of wood, so I marked those angles on the end boards. With the table saw adjusted to 45 degrees, I began sending the boards through and cutting a 45-degree angle off of one side. The height of the mantel needed to be only 5 inches, and in hindsight I could have used a 6-inch board and avoided a little waste and saved a couple bucks. But I measured the blade setting from the fence and dialed it in to exactly 5 inches before sending the full board through the saw. I moved the table saw blade back to 90 degrees and added my zero clearance insert plate and ripped the boards to their final width. The back of the mantel will set flush against the wall, so these edges just need to be flat. Now I'm turning my attention to the ends of the boards and using my compound miter saw to cut them to the final length with a 45-degree angle. If you don't have a miter saw or a table saw, these boards could be joined together at the edges to form a box. You just wouldn't have the look of a solid piece of wood since the edges will be visible, but it will still look great, and I'll have a video linked below with that option in a floating entertainment center project. With the 3 boards cut to final length and width, it's time to join them together. I'm using painter's tape, glue, brad nails, and clamps. The painter's tape keeps the pieces from sliding apart, while I'm lining up the edges when nailing the pieces together, since the glue can be slippery. I added these spacer blocks that were cut to the inside width of the mantel so that I could clamp the 2 sides together. I used brad nails to hold the 3 pieces together while the glue dried. After the glue had dried, it was time to add the end caps to our mantel. I'm using the scrap pieces cut off earlier. They glue in place with a little persuasion from a clamp. I added these little blocks inside the mantel so that I could firmly attach the end caps with the clamps while the glue dried. I removed those blocks after the glue dried. I ended up using almost all the clamps I have, which looks like a lot. I'll leave links below to some of my favorite clamps and all the other tools that I use for this project. Check out this little guy I found hanging out on the workbench the next day. I lightly sanded the mantel, then used this wood filler to fill the nail holes. I also use this little trick when working with soft wood like pine to fill the gaps. Here I had a gap where the miter wasn't great. I use a wet rag to wet the wood at the edges, then I use a screwdriver to round over the wood corners to bring the edges closer together. Then I use the wood filler to fill the rest of the gap. Finally, I sanded everything smooth with 220 grit sandpaper and wiped it all down to remove the dust before staining with this Minwax Early American stain. I also added 3 coats of Minwax water-based poly for protection that I failed to film. The last step was install, and I missed capturing the cleat that I attached to the wall. But it's a simple process, just attach a smaller board to the wall and attach the mantle to it with a couple of screws from the top. I'll have a link here and down below for an older video that shows that process. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.